McDonald's has apparently discovered a recipe for success. The global fast food chain has been modernizing its stores, investing in technology, and raising prices, all of which helped it log its best global sales in 7 years today.
For decades, McDonald's seemed so embedded in daily life that even recessions barely slowed it down. But in 2024 and 2025, the cracks finally became impossible to ignore. In the first quarter of 2025 alone, McDonald's reported a 3.6% decline in US same-store sales, the sharpest drop in its home market since the shock of early 2020. Mind you, the whole world was in a lockdown back in 2020. People are simply no longer willing to pay rising prices for an experience that increasingly feels overpriced, underwhelming, and out of step with what fast food was supposed to be. They say that McDonald's is finally getting what it deserves, and it's not good. Let's dive right in. Recent decline in sales and traffic. McDonald's entered 2025 carrying a problem it hadn't faced at this scale in years. People were simply showing up less often, and the numbers finally made that impossible to spin. In the first quarter of 2025, the company reported that global same-store sales fell by about 1%. In the United States, the drop was sharper, marking the worst domestic same-store sales performance since the pandemic years. Consolidated revenue for the quarter landed at roughly $5.9 billion, about 3% lower than the same period a year earlier, and profits declined as well. For a company that operates more than 40,000 locations worldwide and has long been treated as a bellwether for consumer spending. That combination of falling traffic and shrinking revenue set off alarms across the restaurant industry. Executives acknowledged during earnings calls that visit frequency was down most sharply among low and middle-income customers, the very groups that historically formed the backbone of McDonald's business. For decades, McDonald's thrived on volume. It wasn't about extracting the maximum dollar from each visit. It was about millions of people stopping here multiple times a week. The food was cheap, fast, and familiar. When those customers pull back, the impact is immediate. Analysts tracking foot traffic data noted that McDonald's declines in visits were steeper than the broader fast food industry average during several recent periods. The problem isn't just inflation fatigue or a general slowdown, but something more brand-specific. That shift in customer behavior is closely tied to how consumers now perceive value at McDonald's. Fast food prices across the United States have risen dramatically since the mid-2010s, but McDonald's has been hit particularly hard by the perception that it no longer offers a clear price advantage. In many urban markets, a Big Mac meal can now approach or exceed $12, and in some high-cost cities, customers report totals closer to $15. Those numbers matter because McDonald's built its reputation on being the default affordable option. When prices climb into territory once associated with casual dining or fast casual chains, customers begin to ask uncomfortable questions about what they're actually getting for their money. McDonald's leadership has framed this moment as a temporary disconnect between pricing and consumer expectations, driven by years of inflation, rising labor costs, and higher input prices. There is truth in that explanation. Wages have increased in many states due to minimum wage laws and labor shortages. Beef and poultry prices have fluctuated, and franchise operators face higher rent, energy, and insurance costs than they did a decade ago. But those pressures are not unique to McDonald's. The problem is that McDonald's once offset cost increases by maintaining a visible and credible value floor. Dollar menus, deeply discounted combo deals, and predictable low prices acted as a psychological anchor. As those anchors disappeared, the brand's value leadership gap narrowed. The Washington Post has pointed out that this narrowing gap is a key reason customers are rethinking their habits. When the difference between a McDonald's meal and a competitor's meal is only $1 or $2, people start comparing quality, portion size, and experience more critically. Some opt for cheaper alternatives, including other fast food chains that still emphasize aggressive discounting. Others skip restaurants altogether and eat at home. A rotisserie chicken that feeds a family for $5 or $6 suddenly looks like a better deal than 4 individual fast food meals totaling $40. McDonald's has not ignored these trends. In 2024 and 2025, the company rolled out renewed value initiatives, including $5 meal deals and expanded app-based promotions. These offers were designed to pull cost-conscious customers back into the ecosystem, particularly during breakfast and lunch hours. Early data suggests these promotions generated interest, but not enough to fully reverse traffic declines. One issue is that value deals often come with conditions, limited availability, or app requirements that make them feel less straightforward than the old, always-there dollar menu. The impact of these changes shows up not just in sales figures, but in how consumers talk about McDonald's. Surveys indicate that many customers no longer think of the chain as cheap by default. Instead, it's increasingly described as expensive for what it is. That matters because McDonald's scale depends on habit. When people stop seeing it as the easiest, most affordable option, they stop visiting reflexively. Each skipped visit reduces the chance of the next one. Location also plays a role. In higher-income urban areas, McDonald's has long relied on convenience and speed rather than price alone. In lower-income and suburban areas, affordability was the primary draw. As prices rose uniformly across markets, the pain was felt most acutely where budgets are tightest. Executives have openly acknowledged that inflation has disproportionately affected lower-income consumers, and McDonald's data shows those customers cutting back first. That reality creates a structural problem. The customers most sensitive to price are also the ones McDonald's historically served best. In fact, history holds a lot of the answers to McDonald's current problems. McDonald's original vision, history, and price evolution. McDonald's did not begin as a global empire or even as a restaurant chain in the modern sense. It started in 1940 in San Bernardino, California, when brothers Richard and Maurice McDonald opened a small drive-in restaurant serving a broad menu of barbecue items. By 1948, they made a radical decision. They shut the restaurant down, stripped the menu to just a handful of items: hamburgers, cheeseburgers, fries, milkshakes, soft drinks, and rebuilt the operation around speed, volume, and low prices. A hamburger sold for 15 cents. Fries were 10 cents. There were no waiters, no plates, no cutlery. Food was assembled like an assembly line. The goal was to serve a massive number of customers quickly, cheaply, and consistently. That system caught the attention of Ray Kroc, a milkshake machine salesman who visited the San Bernardino location in 1954 and saw something far bigger than a local restaurant. Kroc didn't invent McDonald's food, but he understood the business model in a way few others did at the time. In 1955, he opened the first franchise McDonald's east of California in Des Plaines, Illinois, and soon after formed McDonald's Systems Incorporated, later renamed McDonald's Corporation. Kroc's vision centered on scale and affordability. He believed McDonald's should be a place where families could eat without thinking twice about the bill, where workers could grab lunch quickly, and where consistency mattered more than culinary creativity. The low prices weren't a side effect of the system. They were the point. In the 1950s and 1960s, fast food as an industry was still defining itself, and McDonald's became its clearest expression. The early fast food model revolved around a few core principles: limited menus, standardized preparation, rapid service, and prices that were accessible to nearly everyone. By keeping menus small, McDonald's reduced waste and training costs. By standardizing portions and cooking times, it ensured a burger in Illinois tasted the same as one in California. And by focusing on volume rather than margins, it could charge less than traditional diners while still making money. This model fit perfectly with post-war America, where car ownership was rising, suburban sprawl was expanding, and families wanted convenience without sacrificing affordability. For decades, McDonald's pricing reinforced this identity. Through the 1970s and 1980s, menu items remained inexpensive relative to wages and household income. In 1979, the Happy Meal debuted at a price of around $1.10. In the early 1990s, McDonald's introduced its first dollar menu nationally, cementing the idea that you could eat there for literal pocket change. A Big Mac in 1986 cost about $1.60. Fries hovered well under $1. The chain didn't just compete on price, it defined what cheap food meant in the American imagination. That relationship between McDonald's prices and consumer expectations began to shift gradually in the 2000s, then more sharply after the mid-2010s. Inflation has always existed, and prices were bound to rise over time, but the pace of change accelerated in ways that customers noticed. Data compiled from menu price comparisons shows that average McDonald's item prices roughly doubled between the mid-2010s and the mid-2020s. During that same period, overall consumer inflation in the United States rose far less. The Consumer Price Index increased by roughly 30 to 40% over that decade, depending on the measure used, while many McDonald's menu items climbed 80 to 100% or more. Some items became symbols of this shift. Medium fries, once an afterthought add-on, rose dramatically in price across many markets. The McChicken, long considered a budget staple, saw increases that pushed it well beyond the psychological cheap threshold for many customers. What mattered wasn't just the absolute price, but how it felt relative to what McDonald's had always represented. A customer might understand inflation in theory, but that understanding breaks down when a meal that once cost $5 now costs $12. Analysts have noted that this erosion of McDonald's low-price identity carries consequences beyond simple sticker shock. McDonald's historically benefited from what economists call price anchoring. Consumers didn't evaluate McDonald's prices against grocery bills or inflation charts. They compared them to what McDonald's used to cost. As long as the chain stayed meaningfully cheaper than competitors, it retained a powerful psychological advantage. Once that gap narrowed, the comparison set changed. Customers began comparing McDonald's to fast casual chains, local takeout, and even sit-down restaurants offering lunch specials. This shift became especially visible during periods of economic stress. When inflation surged in the early 2020s and household budgets tightened, McDonald's should have benefited from consumers trading down. Historically, recessions and downturns were good for the brand. This time, many consumers didn't see McDonald's as a trade-down option at all. When prices at McDonald's approached or exceeded those of competitors offering perceived higher quality or larger portions, the logic of choosing McDonald's weakened. The Washington Post and other outlets have highlighted how this narrowing price advantage has undercut McDonald's traditional role in the food ecosystem. Fast casual brands like Chipotle or Chick-fil-A often charge only a few dollars more than McDonald's for meals that customers perceive as fresher or more filling. At the same time, grocery stores and prepared food counters offer meals that feel like a better value for families. What makes this evolution particularly striking is how far it diverges from the founder's vision. Ray Kroc famously emphasized affordability as a moral and business principle. He believed McDonald's should serve the common man, and that success came from consistency and volume, not premium positioning. While Kroc embraced modernization and expansion, he resisted anything that threatened the chain's accessibility. The modern McDonald's menu, with app-exclusive deals, regional pricing disparities, and meals that can rival casual dining prices, reflects a very different philosophy, and the blowback from customers is real. Recent events and operational challenges. In the past 2 years, McDonald's has been forced into a kind of defensive posture it historically avoided, responding to pressure rather than shaping the narrative. One of the clearest signs of that shift has been its renewed focus on value menus and aggressive promotions. In 2024, McDonald's announced a nationally marketed $5 meal deal in the United States, a bundle that typically included a sandwich, fries, nuggets, and a drink. By early 2025, the company confirmed that the deal would be extended and expanded, alongside other localized value offerings, explicitly targeting customers who had reduced visits due to inflation. McDonald's executives acknowledged that price sensitivity had become a dominant factor in customer decision-making, particularly for households earning under $75,000 annually, a demographic that historically generated a disproportionate share of traffic. Despite the visibility of these promotions, the data shows they have not delivered a full reversal in traffic trends. While value deals increased promotional redemptions and app engagement, they did not meaningfully restore visit frequency to pre-inflation levels. In earnings calls, McDonald's leadership admitted that value menus were mitigating declines rather than driving growth. In practical terms, this meant customers were more likely to visit only when a deal was available, rather than returning to habitual full-price purchases. That distinction matters because McDonald's profitability has always depended on consistency and volume, not episodic bargain hunting. Complicating this effort is the fact that value initiatives are increasingly fragmented. Many deals require mobile app usage, loyalty enrollment, or time-limited availability. While these tools are effective for data collection and targeted marketing, they also introduce friction. For older customers or those without consistent smartphone access, app-exclusive discounts can feel exclusionary. For others, the perception that real value only exists behind a digital gate undermines the simplicity McDonald's was built on. Analysts have pointed out that the old dollar menu worked because it was universal and predictable. The modern value strategy is conditional, and that change weakens its psychological impact even when the nominal price is attractive. McDonald's also continues to grapple with a highly visible operational problem: the ice cream machine. Complaints about broken McDonald's ice cream machines date back decades, but the issue reached mainstream cultural awareness in the late 2010s and early 2020s. Customers routinely encountered out-of-order signs for soft serve and McFlurries, sparking jokes, memes, and eventually investigative reporting. At the center of the problem are proprietary machines manufactured primarily by Taylor Company, which require complex maintenance procedures, including mandatory heat treatment and pasteurization cycles that can take several hours and automatically lock the machine if any step fails. By the early 2020s, frustration with this system had grown beyond customer annoyance. Independent technicians and franchise owners reported that the machine's internal error codes were difficult to interpret and that repairs often required certified Taylor technicians, leading to downtime that could last days. Reporting in 2024 and 2025 suggested that roughly 12 to 15% of machines were out of service regularly. The issue escalated further when the Federal Trade Commission launched an inquiry into the machines and the surrounding repair ecosystem, examining whether franchisees were being unfairly restricted in how they could service equipment. In 2024, McDonald's announced changes aligned with right-to-repair principles, allowing franchisees greater access to diagnostic tools and maintenance information. While this was a notable policy shift, it did not produce immediate visible improvement for customers. Ice cream outages remained common in many markets into 2025. Beyond pricing and equipment issues, McDonald's has faced ongoing scrutiny across multiple operational fronts, often in the form of localized controversies that collectively shape national perception. Employment practices have been a recurring flashpoint. Over the past several years, McDonald's locations in various U.S. cities have faced lawsuits and labor complaints alleging wage theft, unsafe working conditions, and inadequate protections against harassment. While McDonald's corporate structure places day-to-day employment under franchise control, the brand name absorbs the reputational damage. Strikes and walkouts at individual locations, particularly in states with higher minimum wages like California and New York, have generated headlines that conflict with McDonald's family-friendly image. Health and safety violations have also contributed to negative coverage, even when incidents are isolated. Local health departments periodically cite McDonald's restaurants for issues ranging from improper food storage to pest control problems. While such violations are not unique to McDonald's and occur across the restaurant industry, the brand's size amplifies their impact. A single viral inspection report or social media video can reach millions within hours, reinforcing narratives about declining standards. Nutritional scrutiny continues as well. Public health advocates frequently cite McDonald's when discussing childhood obesity, sodium intake, and ultra-processed foods. While McDonald's has introduced menu labeling, smaller portions, and limited healthier options over the years, critics argue these changes are cosmetic rather than structural. This debate intensified in the 2020s as research on ultra-processed foods gained mainstream attention. Even when McDonald's is not directly implicated in new studies, it often becomes the symbolic stand-in for the broader fast food industry. For much of its modern history, McDonald's thrived in a relatively simple competitive environment, going head-to-head with other fast food chains and winning by being faster, cheaper, and more convenient. That landscape has fundamentally changed. Over the past decade, McDonald's has found itself competing not just with Burger King and Wendy's, But with fast casual restaurants, grocery stores, meal kits, delivery apps, and shifting consumer expectations all at once, each of these forces has slowly eroded the advantages that once made McDonald's dominant. Fast casual chains like Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, and Five Guys have been particularly disruptive. They offer food perceived as fresher and of higher quality at prices that are often only marginally higher than McDonald's. At the same time, grocery stores have emerged as powerful competitors. Retailers like Costco, Walmart, and Kroger expanded prepared food options, with items like Costco's $4.99 rotisserie chicken offering value that fast food struggles to match. The pandemic accelerated these trends, pushing consumers to cook at home and embrace grocery delivery, curbside pickup, and ready-to-eat meals that rival restaurants on convenience and price. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Did you like this video? If you did, please consider liking, dropping a comment, and hitting the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on our new uploads. Also, don't miss this video you see on your screen right now. It's truly unbelievable.